And nobody can survive that, especially because he's throwing a punch, right? Time out of the board, A-hole here. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful Sunday, which is a dumb day, which is a fun day, which is a reaction day. And I suppose the YouTube powers that be smiled down upon me because I thought, well, you know, we're going to have Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Can never pronounce his last name, so I have a problem. I know I've now ruined your life. You can let me know in the comments below. So I thought, well, I'll do a reaction to the fight. Now, look, I'm a very casual MMA fan. I know that casual people aren't allowed to talk about sports and we should be strung up and have our heads cut off. But hey, I'd rather be honest and transparent with you. And then, much like what had happened a few months ago when we did this, there was just one of these crazy situations that seemingly can only happen in mixed martial arts. And if you don't know and you're just intrigued, or how could you get away from it? It's everywhere. It was front page of the BBC early this morning. I was like, oh my gosh, it's making headline news. Essentially, McGregor, well, there's two things we can talk about. Either one, Dustin did leg check him in the appropriate fashion or the way that he was intending and snapped or dislocated or did something to McGregor's ankle. So when he did step back, it was already weak and therefore, you know, just imploded into 1,000 pieces. Or it's just one of those freak things that does happen in the UFC and in other places where, yeah, I mean, like I've already told you, Conor McGregor steps back and his foot just crushes into dust. He wasn't able to get back up. The fight was stopped. We then get into this huge conversation. I suppose is what we should talk about as well, because now people are going, well, did Dustin Poirier win or did Conor McGregor simply not lose? And I don't know, right? And it's announced as a doctor's stoppage, but I'm pretty sure on the records it still goes down as a Conor McGregor loss. And in that first round, again, if you were going to barge in here right now and put a gun to my head and said, Simon, based on the first round, who was going to win that fight? I would not be saying the name Conor McGregor because, yeah, Dustin Poirier was just, well, he was slamming him. He was beating him up. And this ties into the other conversation, which is all, oh, ever since Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather, he hasn't been the same. He's got too much money. He's lost the fire in his belly. And I suppose if you watch some of the pre-fight promos that he did, it did kind of feel like a parody of what Conor McGregor used to be. Like a lot of what was coming out of his mouth was just a bit like, he used to be kind of, I mean, it was always cutting and it was always pretty severe, but it lacked maybe the ha-ha wow factor, and he basically insinuated that things were going on with Dustin Poirier's wife. I'm sure that it wasn't. I'm sure that wasn't. I know that it wasn't. He's just trying to get in his head, but it did not work because Dustin came out there like a house on fire. Anyway, this is what everybody's talking about. Do not watch this if you don't like horrible things. I'm actually a bit worried that YouTube is going to demonetize this. So if the video does vanish from the channel, that's what it is, because I'm learning a lot about YouTube, but let's go. So this is the best clip that I can get as well, because otherwise it's going to get copyright claimed. This is just what we have to deal with in 2021. But as you can see, he steps back, his left foot, oh man, and it just goes over, and nobody can survive that, especially because he's throwing a punch, right? So when you throw your punch, you put your hips into it, and when you swing your hips round in any kind of fashion, you know, your body will compensate by putting, you know, weight on your legs as you go to stand back. That was the worst explanation of anything in the history of mankind. But that means if he did have it basically means all of his weight went on that foot, which came down at a horrible angle. And it just, like I say, that's a break. I think he's having surgery in the morning, Dana White said. Dana White said when he comes back, if Dustin does win the championship, they will do that as a championship match. Also going to be a talking point. But yeah, Conor has surgery in the morning. And irony, I suppose we're going to use, maybe karma, it depends how you see the situation, is that beforehand, Conor McGregor had been telling everyone who was listening, I'm going to send him out of there on a stretcher. And then he didn't want to go out on a stretcher, but the doctors are like, listen, brah, you cannot walk out of here. We have to put you on a stretcher. So, look, I never take any kind of fun or happiness in somebody else's injuries or misery. Like, Conor McGregor's not a bad person. He's done a lot of things that you raise your eyebrow, like, dude, you shouldn't be doing that. But I just don't. It's just not the way I want to. I just don't want to live my life that way. And it also opens up the door about what he does do when he comes back. I mean, Jake Paul, YouTuber, now fighter somehow. I mean, look, I don't like the guy, but he has smashed it. So, you know, you got to give him some credit. He is clearly trying to get a fight with Conor McGregor because he knows he's going to make $1 bajillion from it, which he probably would do. He's even spent, allegedly, I'm sure it wasn't this much, $100,000 on some chain that he's going to wear around his neck, which is just Conor flat on his ass. So that guy is just absolutely nuts. But if Conor McGregor has to come back and have a real fight, in my opinion, right? He just does. And if he loses, then he probably needs to take stock of the situation because it catches up to every single fighter that has ever existed. Doesn't matter if you're the best, doesn't matter if you're worst. Eventually, you get to a certain age or your brain gets to a certain mindset where that, well, either, again, your body's breaking down so you can't fight or you lose that killer mentality. Never forget that most fighters that get into a cage or a boxing ring or whatever have the mentality, I'm going to kill that guy, but thankfully the referee is here to stop me doing it. That's why I would never be able to do what they do, because I don't have that in me. I just know I don't, and probably why I like being a professional wrestler. Still really hard on your body, but it's more of a showmanship mentality. And again, I'm just that kind of a guy. So if he's lost that, it's going to be really hard to win a fight ever again, especially, was it Muhammad Ali that said it's hard to box when you're wearing gold pajamas? No, it wasn't Muhammad Ali. Someone like Joe Frazier or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I think he has to come back and have a real fight. I just do. But if that does go badly, does he fight Manny Pacquiao or does he go after a Jake Paul? The reason I think he needs a legit fight before he goes and fights Jake Paul is because, well, it's just a sideshow, isn't it? And I know some people enjoy it and some people don't enjoy it. People like to talk about the sanctity of the sport. I don't need to worry about the sanctity of boxing or MMA. Maybe I should, and maybe I'm part of the problem. But if you want to do these freak show fights and, it's all above board and health and safety precautions have been taken, I'm probably going to watch. I don't watch all of them. Like, I watched Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather for obvious reasons. I watched Jake Paul versus Askren for obvious reasons because I just could not believe it. I watched Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. But there are other ones that are going on where I'm like, I just don't care about this. Like, these aren't people that I have any kind of affiliation with. I don't have that emotional investment. But if you did do Conor McGregor versus Jake Paul, I'm probably going to watch. Isn't Jake Paul fighting Tyrone Woodley first or someone like that? If it is Tyrone Woodley, I don't see him getting past that, which would take away a little something, but you'd be able to promote it again. But yeah, I would never in a million years see Jake Paul defeating Conor McGregor. And if he did, that's it. Conor McGregor would have to go into hiding. But I think if you spark out Jake Paul or whatever happens, do you then try and step back in the octagon? Maybe this is actually when Conor McGregor, again, definitely has one more fight. If he wins, that changes it. But if he loses, does the Jake Paul stuff, maybe has one more boxing match against Manny Pacquiao, then probably heads to WWE. Talking about wrestling. I've always said this. The guy is tailor-made for that kind of a stuff, and there's no way that he didn't base his walk and his promos on stuff that he had seen in professional wrestling. It just makes all the sense in the world. Maybe AEW makes a grab for him, but WWE, I would imagine, has the kind of money you'd have to pay Conor McGregor to get him in. They've done it before with Tyson and a bunch of other people. Although Tyson was in All Elite Wrestling recently, so who the hell knows? But crazy. If I had told you before the fight, this is going to end with, Dustin Poirier pretty much obliterating Conor McGregor. And again, you want to argue about that, do it in the comments below. But it will finish because we have a situation like we had a few months back where Conor McGregor has to go out on his ass, I guess, because his ankle snaps. And he cut a promo.
There was no check. There was not one of them I checked. Your wife is in me DMs.
I keep bringing it into wrestling, but it's true. It makes me think. Royal Rumble, whatever it was, when Dave Bautista and John Cena screwed up the finish and Vince McMahon came in, tore both his quads, and just sat there shouting and screaming. That's what we had with Joe Rogan and Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is sat on his ass, ranting and raving, still taking shots at Dustin Poirier's wife, which he's just an absolute madman. Shouting, going, oh, doctor stoppage. Doesn't want to go on the stretcher, doesn't have a choice. It's why everyone says this, right? They go like, wrestling can make their own stories, and they should. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But when MMA, which is real, hate that term, but you know what I'm getting at, creates these narratives that come out of nowhere and you didn't see coming, it's crazy. It's truly crazy. So yeah, a little bit of a different reaction on a Sunday, but I just wanted to talk about it. I like the big UFC fights. I know you're so crap. You don't watch every single event. No, I don't. So again, come around my house and you can punch me in the face. But it's nice to have an outlet. And of course, yeah, if it does crappy views, I won't talk about it anymore because I will understand. Now, please do leave a comment below, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Get the bell ding ding so you know when other videos are going live. There is another reaction video right there, probably a Jim Feld reaction. Please do check it out. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at SimonMiller316. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/SimonMiller316. I have merchandise, simon.bigcartel.com. If you want to wear one of my stupid divines on my chest and support the channel, that would rock. I'm also in Greg Doucette's Power 13 cookbook that you can get in the link below using the code Simon15 for 15% off. And that's about it. Enjoy your day. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one.